You work on yourself. You do the things that matter, and that you do the things that you can do on a daily basis. To become the person that you want to be, and then the environment is going to change for you.
I never forget it because, as artists at the time, we're getting booked, we're getting 20,000, 30,000. So this check from Sprite is like $500,000, that comes through. I can't forget my friend Smack Sati.
Yeah.
And on top of that, so I tell me that Parliament is like marketing. Yeah.
Like I said, Slikour is here. Siyamatene. Metani.
Very right. Just saying, Ngwenya.
Dude, you saying I've been calling you the wrong name all along. And you tool and
God won't make me bless them.
We've got Musical Major on the other side, and these are the two individuals that are quite extraordinary. So here we are. We're going to talk everything about preparation. We're trying to get the message across.
Yeah.
To say that we're in a different epoch. Yes, big words. Epoch. In a sense that all gifted people, whom I decided to target, that it's about time that we take ourselves serious with this great gift that you have. And I am privileged to have come across, I only just met you recently as in a sense of talking, and we met throughout the week.
Yeah.
I've known my brother here for years. This episode is not going to be enough for what he has done and what we have experienced together.
Yeah.
But you share something similar, which, as I say this, then Slikour will come in a sense that I can describe this in many ways, but I believe Usia never got into this game with a mentality of being a slave to anything. Mm-hmm. He already knew and understood something about himself. But there's a story that I'm going to tell you that really got us to pay attention to him. He was 15 years old, which I think you can relate to as you told me your story as well.
Yeah.
He was 15 years old and he got invited to Bram. Do you remember the name of the... Trends.
Yeah.
Slikour, ufika, uqoki Bogart, nama kick and poboza. Looking non-hip hop, and we are there was 93, 4, somewhere there. So Nas is in our heads. We are very indoctrinated with the New York kind of rap. You understand?
Yeah.
The whole scenario at 8 Mile is the way that you get groomed in.
Yeah.
So we've been living that life. Like 8 Mile, the movie, we lived it. He knows.
Yeah.
Slikour comes, you were paired with this contender. Chooses, you're going to go 8 Mile, the crew that was always feared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was the same thing with this crew. Mm-hmm. You don't ever, coming out of nowhere as an outsider, we haven't seen you before, and you choose that guy. And it happens. Boom, 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 boom. Get on the mic, they start doing a thing, which was the norm. Whenever we had gatherings, as a 6 to 6, a battle will ensue to say who's the nicest. That was a must. Now, Slikour, first line. The only one I remember, I don't know if you do, the only one I remember is like, you tell Snares, you never. You understand this? You never battle Snares. I was scared of Snares. Amu had to sweat when he had to battle Snares. It's not the kind of guy that you... Slikour, 15 years old, comes in, says, you're like a second sperm, you have no worth. Blah, 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 blah. First line, you're like, hey, what did we just hear? And it went from that, Snares comes back because he's got a crew that will puff him up. It went to a point where it was now becoming evil. You know, if you watch Invincible, who watches anime Invincible? When you're like, splat, when back and then obliterated the guy where we were like, no, just cut the music now.
Cut the music.
It's okay. Ntanga was unstoppable.
Yeah.
And that's when we knew there was something special about him. But there was something about him when he started making moves. He was not gonna go looking for record deals.
Yeah.
He was not gonna go looking around for handouts.
Exactly.
He had a certain mind state, which still today fascinates me, because you knew you had a gift, but somehow you had an understanding what this gift was. Can you just take us through that, just as the foundation stage?
Sure. Yeah, it is. It strikes a nerve, an emotive nerve. To think of it that way. I don't know. I think the gift works overtime.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't know anything. I serve. I serve the gift, and I don't need information from the world, because God already knows what He wants me to do.
Come on now.
So I never knew how important Snaz was, or who he was.
Yeah.
But God knew what I needed to do.
Yeah.
They say, they say that you gotta know really everything around you, so you're at your best. But sometimes you gotta know who you are at your best. You gotta practice. So even when you step in the world and you don't hit the highest level, then you either know whether it's your thing or it's not your thing. It's like in everything I've done, even in when we got into the music business, I just knew there was no place for us, So I prepared myself like there's no place for you.
Sure.
I got into the marketing business. I just knew that they don't get it. So I prepared myself like I never knew everything.
How did you get to prepare yourself with that kind of narrative that somehow...
Well, I think I'm worth something. I don't need to be told. And I think that because I've always, before I knew that there's God, before I was even born again, I've always known that like I have a relationship with God. I've always known that like there's this thing that I don't remember a lot of things, but there's one picture I remember in primary school of a kid who literally like is sitting on a table and it said, God don't make no junk. And I was reading that every day, and I just felt standard one in a multiracial pre-apartheid where you have to be grateful that you are in a multiracial school. But I kept on seeing, but I just failed, and they kept on reminding me. I was reminded of how I'm not, how great I'm not while with the other kids, but I had to see that sign every day. God don't make no junk, you know. So I'm still sitting till this day, and I tell people, I mean, I'm sitting with subject matter experts of banks, you know, subject matter experts of like marketing, of investments,
yes,
you
sir.
know? And I keep telling them that, like, no, I don't have all your knowledge, but I know I'm here for something.
Yeah.
And I don't fear. So that's the thing, you know. It's only when you guys start talking about it, and I say you guys, I mean when people start like marveling about it, I start thinking of it. But that's why I don't want to be around people because my level of genius for everyone else is just the surface of who I'm trying to understand of who I am.
Yeah.
So if everybody receives it as a level of genius, for me it's just I'm just scratching the surface. I'm frustrated because I want to find out more. I want to be more. But then when people make me feel like, oh, but like already that's so crazy, and you're like, then you're like, okay, let me not try be too smart, you know, or too deep. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But it's funny because when you say we marvel, to you, it comes across effortless. And then, in my definition as a pastor was that when you're looking at purpose, you look at something you do with the least of effort, but when people see it, they marvel. 2, it's something that bothers you the most, then you want to do something about. 3, when you don't do this thing and you sleep, you don't feel okay. 4, you'll do it without asking for money.
And 5, you know, the thing about it is that and I maybe need to learn to not take it personal.
Yeah.
even when you're looking for help, people look at everything from a surface because they think that you're lucky, you know. And I was counting since I started Slikour on Life.
Yeah.
Just in 9 years, and I was counting, like, I was just going through my books, even in a bad year, you know, whatever, you know, because you move from, when you're young, you count how much you've got to go buy food at break, and then mase pilile, like, you know, you then, like, you plan on a day.
Yeah.
The older you get, you plan on a month. Go, okay, I wanna rent. So you plan on a month, right? So and then you grow and you get into business. Then you plan on a year.
Sure.
You plan on a damn, you know. If like in save you R1 for 12 months, it's 12 rand. So that means I can buy that instead of getting into debt. So you know, your mind, unless you've come from a family that like you starting from, we plan from a year. So you know, the basics of how we plan is from what we know, lunch. If you get lunch money, you know what I mean. And then once you get like a little money that can get you around, you start planning for a month. You know. And once you get into business, you start, because if you're gonna grow, if you get into business, you start planning for a year.
Yes.
Right? And then if you now want to get into something that's gonna last forever, you start planning for 5 years. You know. So that means that like I can get in a business that's going through a loss for 2 years sharp. Everyone's but I know that no, this thing's gonna break in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
You know, that's like now when you're like trying to build something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you can't. No one is born thinking like this unless, in fact, 95% of black people aren't thinking like this because we are not raised to think of growing wealth.
Ish.
We're raised to think of like the thing here. So I was sitting like, and I was going back 9 years and said, yo, how I started counting how much like money Slikour on Life has made. And when I saw it, I said, yes, I want today, don't take me serious. If they knew how much I've made over 9 years, like, yes, because I'm sitting with people who say, and I say, do these guys know how serious I am actually? Like, because I literally looked at my books and it's like over 9 years, literally like, it's like me on my own. I'm like, obviously I've met people who've guided me on, and I've learned. So, you know, but Mankula, the business goes down. And if I'm like, I was going through a divorce, I was going through multiple things, then the business suffers. So it's me. It's not, the business doesn't flourish when I'm struggling. You know what I mean? And I said, damn, bro. It's like close to, like me personally, my mind has literally made like close to 100 million in 9 years. That's just me. I said, I never knew that. Until I checked 2 weeks ago. But that's the flow, right? That's the flow. So once you understand that, so when you get older, you start looking backwards.
Come on.
I get when you're young, you start going break. Yes. You get older, you start looking backwards. And backwards literally validates how much more you can do. So
we had an interview so that you can come in, because his story is quite similar to yours. And is amazing. What I like about Musical Major is self-spoken, very, very into it. Ron over here, I call him the man of action. We once had an interview where you asked me a question. I just remember the answer when I say, you don't count us, you weigh us. I think we had it at the foyer rooftop or something like that. I had released a single and you just wanted to know more, and then you asked me questions. And you asked me about the transition between being a musician and now that I am serving the higher power. How did I understand the two narratives and my purpose? And I said that, well, you can count people that are called for something special, which is the point that you are making, which is where he is going. that now you realize that you have made so much, or this is how much worth you have built with your strength, blood, sweat, and tears. But you fought things through this process. 9 years is a process, which is what I'm trying to get out there. Let's make it normal to talk about 9 years, but it was process. When you look back, it's this. Learning. You don't count things you have done. You weigh things that you have done because you have won battles. Major.
Right, man.
But before he jumps in, because I have to close it.
Yeah.
When you weigh things that you have done,
yeah,
you start comprehending your weight also.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
In any level of life.
You start understanding your weight.
Exactly. Not for how people should, for how you should how you should ground yourself in the world when there's a storm or when there's good. You start like, not for a band. So when you kind of can get
for
that
yourself.
reaffirmation and you can weigh yourself, because that's why I say, if other people weigh you, that's the marveling of the outside. If other people weigh you, you will constantly miscalculate your weight.
Yeah,
you know what
man.
I mean?
Yeah,
but
man.
if you weigh yourself through what you've done, you kind of go. You all start saying, how did it come this way? Also,
sure.
And that's where your spirituality also strengthens.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Yes, true that. Let's start from there. The weighing yourself part. You explicitly expressed that to me. Now I need you to tell me of the challenges that you have met and how long did this thing start? Because you are also here to say, no, people must not have a misconception that only because they saw this viral video that's the only time that you've been putting some time in, and you explained to me that God was preparing you for something.
Yeah.
Through that period, so that I tie it in with what Slikour was saying, because you also are heavy on you weigh yourself.
Yeah. Now, with me, I think I can actually find some common ground between what he said and my story. Because now, with me, it was like, I was not like one of those kids that knew how the future was going to be like, right? Especially like the primality of my music career.
Yeah.
Right? It was church first.
Yeah.
It was like, my father's a pastor.
Sure.
Deep into church, It's that type sort of a thing whereby now you're like, come here, drums. We bought a keyboard, play this at church,
Yeah.
And I started messing with it.
Yeah.
But you realize after some point, Uti, I think I'm kind of very good at this. I don't know how, but I'm getting, even the speed at which you learn something, you can tell the difference, because you kind of compare sometimes. Be like, I've been able to learn like 6 keys in like 1 year, You guys are like a bit, and then that's when I started picking up the interest to be like, okay, this musical thing, it's it resonates with me. It's a bit easier for me to do.
Sure.
You'd go to school and then they'd be like, do sports. You play soccer. You're like, nah, I'm not that good. You do this. You're like, I'm not that. And then you find that thing. You're like, ish.
Yeah.
Here, preference.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Then it grew from there.
Yeah.
And then I think just like in the movies, there's that moment where the movie starts and then the hero, right? He goes through like a really bad 20 minutes in the movie.
Yeah.
Like loses family, does that, go through. It builds that passion to make the ending of the movie, right?
Sure.
So that's what I went through.
Yeah.
Started school. Every bad thing happened from me. Like literally, my school years was the worst time of my life I've ever seen.
Man.
Ever. It was so worse. It was so worse that I think I got to a point of suicidality, depression, that and that. Started skipping school. I was like one of those kids that would, because my father was so strict, right? So I couldn't say to my father that I don't want to go to school. Yeah, my father was one of those big guys, he doesn't mess around. And my father was like an education person.
Sure.
Like, in this house, we are getting educated.
Sure.
I would wake up in the morning, put on my uniform, and then get out the gate, go straight to the mountain for 6 hours. 6 hours.
Sure.
And then when I see the other kids going back home, that's when I would be like,
no.
I was afraid of the teachers, the level of the level of bullying that I would go through from the teachers and the kids, and just that all of that abuse.
Yeah.
You know, it was like that was that. I don't know. I think spiritually, what had happened is that I think God had put something in my aura to make people kind of resent me. Right? And I could understand that, it's not you. I don't think it's you, and I don't think it's him. No, there's something that you guys, when you meet me, even for the first time, you're like, I don't mess with that guy. I don't want to mess with that guy.
Sure.
And, that really brought now all of the adversity and that I had to go through now.
Sure.
I only understood it later.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When I got so angry, that anger, I think with most people, they turn it to maybe anger problems, this, and this. My anger turned into passion. Because now I had this thing. I was like, you know what? I stumbled into... There was a time, we as like the ghetto kids, we like to play like video games on the computer and everything.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was going to take this game from this other guy. He had a whole bunch of them, right? And I was like, yo, here's a USB. Give me a couple of games.
Yeah.
By mistake, I had put on a folder.
Yeah.
Right? Another folder. It was not a game.
Yeah.
Put on that folder. I went back home, put it onto my PC there. And when I click on that folder, it was like audios, like 100 of them. It was mental health, personal development type of stuff.
All right.
It was Jim Rohn.
All right. Yeah.
I clicked on the first one.
Okay.
I still remember the first sentence.
Sure. What did it say?
If you want things to be better for you, you need to be better yourself. I was like, what is this white man? What is he talking about?
Sure.
Better for me, obviously, but how do I now make myself better?
Yeah.
And then he gave me the whole rundown. To be like, you work on yourself, you do the things that matter, and that you do the things that you can do on a daily basis. To become the person that you want to be, and then the environment is going to change for you.
Sure.
That's when the light bulb hit. That's when all the studying, the books, and everything, the personal development that I've ever went through for the past probably maybe 14, 13 years from now, that has led to this moment. So it was from a bad story. In a funny way, I didn't know, because my trajectory was just controlled by the universe. I meet him, I do this, all of the stories put together. And then now, just like he said, when you look back, right? When you look back and you now weigh, to be like, yo, I'm really important to you people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why? How was I able to build that level of importance?
Sure.
Because there was a time in which when I would self-introspect, probably maybe look myself in the mirror, I would be like, just a ghetto kid from the ghetto, no money here, no opportunities here, 150 things to complain about. But then right now it's like the way in which God has put up and structured that trajectory in my life, it was like, wow. Man.
I'm sitting here, I'm seeing, I know from personal experience with Slikour, I mean, you just mentioned that you went through this, through that, divorce and all that. But the amount of resilience from someone who's been still is, I would say, a practitioner in the music industry. Now he knows how to weigh himself.
Exactly.
Same with you, to a point where did you check the episode with Twizer?
I hadn't seen that one, actually. I hadn't seen that one.
I must check it out. The conversation. I think I was surprised with the one that got Pitch Black Afro. Because Bruce like to shine my cadence, like
I saw that.
I saw that. Like he's doing like whoa. So and then there's him, and then I funny as well. Those are my top 3. But his just because it touches the place where I'm at. He speaks about pacing himself. I'm like, that's the guy I need for a Prepcast. So let's get into it as far as preparation. Slikour, Upuma from his Squatter camp, and I remember before there was even a summer award, you guys were the first ones to win the proper one. By that time, we were already being a family, because it was like we understood there's no place for us, like you said here. But there must have been some decisions, something that you saw to say, we will approach this move this way. I just want to know what inspired you to take that, because the industry found you while you were already doing something. You didn't go shop around for deals. You had a strong brotherhood, Namachita, but there was also a strong sense. I think Vele hip-hop has always had beef with record execs. Like, we're very vocal. We had something to stand for. But you guys, being South African, knowing we just came out of what promises to be a better era, apartheid, but here's Squatter Camp, Cut and Join, all those albums. But you had an independent mindset. What inspired that? And what did you say to yourselves, guys, we need to prepare ourselves like this? What were you trying to achieve as well?
I won't say that I can't even put it on myself alone, you know. Am I the center and am I the initiator?
As a group,
I probably am the initiator, right? Mm-hmm. We're the guys who literally knew how to do things that I had in my mind better than I could. Yes, that was Boo, you had Lebu to a certain extent, you know. What I feel I did is, it's what you said, it's like I'd done so much work on myself that my world literally fixed itself. So Spoo came, Lebu came. You know, though Lebu's like my best friend.
That is like a powerful
you know what I mean?
So
Spoo came, Lebu came, you know, and remember also part of working, I was the guy who in the group, I'm the guy who never had the job, you know. I'm the guy who literally, my parents couldn't take me to school because they couldn't afford. I'm that guy. And then, like, you know, when I got a job and which was paying minimal, my father, I did a deal with my father, but like, it's me having extra money. I'm the guy that when everyone else who actually never had, who could have put the money forward, who said, I'm going to put the most money on Cut and Join, you know. So I literally put the most money on our demo to get it recorded. I'm the guy that did the walks. But like I could have done all those walks, but without that spilling over to a Spoo going, okay, spilling over to Lebu saying, you know, I think I also want to shift my life this way, you know. I wouldn't have, it would have been in vain. So it was all that that work that I did for myself that allowed everyone else to do the work for us, you know. And as that happened, you know, I never stopped doing work for myself, because that's when we were in our prime, I said to Lebu, dude, these brands are doing it, like, you know. So I started working on presentations every weekend, but it would go over Lebu's head, like, you know. And I do the presentations until we got one job, like, through, once again, because of all the work I did inside. I sent a presentation that was an idea, and Coke said, we don't do ideas, we do campaigns. But there's something in your idea that can link to a campaign. Because I kept shopping these things, right? And with that happening, now that, like, I never forget it, because, you know, as artists at the time, we're getting booked, we're getting 20,000, 30,000. So this check from Sprite is like $500,000, you know, that comes through. I can't forget my friend Smex. I think, and on top of that, so I tell me that Parliament is like marketing, you know, and you know, it was one of those things where, even when Sprite did the deal, without Lebu, because Lebu is a logistic person, I'm an ideas. Without Lebu, I wouldn't even gotten into marketing. Do you know what I mean? To a point where Lebu literally, I'd done so much work, I'd amped myself so much. I remember we once sat in a boardroom with a lot of agencies, and I think this was Motorola. And so Lebu was so gassed by me that, like, now I think they were launching the Razor phone. So they were asking us, so they want to find out, you know how the agency do, they always get those creatives, those young guys from the hood who are supposedly supposed to know things. So we were those guys, you know. So we're sitting there, you know, and they asked me about, like, my view about the market, you know. So because I'm intimidated, it's like, hey, what's happening, you know? I don't know what I said, and then this makes Agib when we get it because I'm not just like, you're not to yourself,
yeah, that's it.
So, you know, it's one of those things that we got into the room because of me thinking that there's something else, but he was my guy and he was my other brain, so so he is now riding with me on that. So now inside, now I'm letting him down. I'm not the guy, you know what I'm saying? So we leave that. But that tells you that like there's so much that was in work that I was doing inside that inspired people outside, you know, and I think in context, it's funny that this is what I pick up now. Even when you how the devil is going to challenge you is you'll do all the work inside, but it won't move the people outside. And let alone especially those that you think that it should move, those that you're close to. So, and I think that was the challenge in my marriage, to be quite frank. It's like even when I think of the guy I am inside my marriage, I'm like I'm like my mind, like I'm like Superman, right? You know, I think. But like I think that where the devil challenges you is that, so you've done it around your friends, your peers, they've believed in you. Okay, let me see. So they lock you in something that like will challenge you and doubt this thing inside. Well, right now, where I'm thinking is, now that I'm out of that space, I'm like, wait a minute, I know how to multiply. My father's taxi business was struggling, and just when I was out that, I literally went back to the business. Like they called me back, and I literally turned it around in 2 months. We had like properties. I literally I'm like, all these things, they've always been there, and they also came and grew because of me. But I stepped out of them because I started getting into Slikour life. Sure. But and you know, my mother sent me a sermon yesterday, which almost said that like, which was just talking about like, sometimes the child is the blessing. Sometimes the child's... And I think what my mother was trying to say to me, was trying to say, look, she knows I've gone through like stuff. She was just trying to say, don't forget who you are.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
And that's why I say, how much preparation can you do except believe that God has got you, except believe that God has given you the tools, except believe that idea that you had at home, if it gets diluted when you're around 10 people, that was God speaking to you. But like now around those 10 people, you are now lost in the different conversations God is having with other people. So now you are literally so how could you even prepare? The only thing you got to prepare is, how is God going to speak to you? The only thing you got to prepare is, how is God going to multiply without you thinking that it's you? So prepare yourself to be humble through the multiplication also that comes. You know what I mean?
Preach, man. Major.
Good, man.
He's touching on a place. Ron.
Oh,
he's touching on a place. I think what we will take from this episode is that what you worked inside is the most important thing. Before we even say you prepare for the field. In fact, there is a scripture. Hold on. That talks about prepare your... It talks about that touches on. It says, if prepare your inside before you start working on the field.
It literally says that like you I think it's
I had it here,
but
man.
It literally just talks about how like resting in God or Jesus, knowing that like everything else, so you must do what you got to do and rest. And don't think that, hey, rest in God, you know, and everything else will work itself. I don't know what it is, but like it's somewhere there, you know. Not that like Marayini mina ngicela ngena manje kulezi into zema Bible nesonto. Fresh out the Bible.
Fresh out the Bible.
Right.
You know.
It says Proverbs 24:27. In this case, it says, prepare your outside work. Make it fit for yourself in the field. And afterward, build your house. That talks a lot about, it might say outside, but outside is your inner being. Make yourself fit to be ready for the field. And when you are in the field, you can build your house in the field. You know, so from what you said, I take that, and people listening would have to take that first, that yes, gifted people, in fact, we know that gifted people are the most challenged people. The challenges that you meet is like, I got young zonda, you know, so.
There's an answer to that. Gifted people are the most challenged people because there's 20,000 years of gifts that have already been created. So you are literally trying to say that mine counts too.
Amen.
That's why. So
Amen.
You see
what he does.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I say that again. Whoa, pause. Hold on.
You know what I mean?
Niggas going deep.
Say that again, bro. Yay.
I'm just saying, you know, like gifted people struggle, and I'm only counting from 2000. I don't know, minus BC. You know, I'm just saying, gifted people struggle the most because they literally getting in a world where there's 2,000 plus years of gifts that have already been planted in the world, and you are coming in thinking that your gift also matters.
Sure. Speaking of that,
you know, to add on that, the crazy thing, you say gifted people are challenged. That's true. That's true, because now I think, I don't know, maybe with my personal gift, right? It's the way that it's set up and the way that it is, like I feel like maybe sometimes I look at maybe like other gifted people, maybe like your singers, anybody who does anything, right? And I'm like, oh, you guys, I think you guys have it a bit easy, nyana. And with me, it's a bit, you know, because the process, just as you were talking about preparation, the preparation, the thing that's not popular is that the preparation is not nice. No. When you're in the preparation phase now, before the film, it's not nice. Because now what happens is that I think every child is born with kind of in the same type of a situation, you know, same type of brain cranials or whatever. And then when they grow, right, but the preparation now starts. And I think with mine, what happened is that about 90% of my whole being had to be messed with so that it could be ready to operate at a higher performing level in the future. Right? So it's just like that song, my first viral song, which is Indoctrination. That's exactly what I was trying to explain. It'd be like, hey, you guys are running for IQ. We were all running for IQ, and selection is number one. But then there are these other ones here, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, all of that, because you'd find that might be a very, very smart individual, but be really bad at connecting with other people.
Sure.
Now, for business type of interest, you need that. Or maybe you might be good at connecting with other people, but very bad at dealing with your own emotions.
Sure.
But the only way that you can ever be a master of all these quotients is that go through that preparation, which is not nice.
Yeah, it's not nice.
It's the way that God works. And I'm personally, I'm not a fan of how he does, you know, especially when he wants to make you great. I'm not a fan of those methods, but they are, you know.
No one is.
I'm not a fan of those methods.
No one is. I had to go through just for me to know that I'm an encourager.
Yeah.
You can never be in my space and I don't encourage you.
Exactly.
It's in me. I always validate. And then I don't do it blindly. But just for me to get an understanding of what I needed to do to get through that was not
just
nice.
To understand.
I had my spiritual mentor. He said people rush, like what you said, to be on big stages. And enjoy the benefits of the gift. Without having to go through the process of what this gift will do so that you benefit out of it.
But I've got another thing that gave me a little comfort, you know. It's when See, I'm a throw from the Bible. See, I've
Sure.
been reading.
Sure.
So when Jesus literally went and told Abraham to go free the Israelites, you know,
Moses.
And Moses, sorry, when Jesus told Moses to go free the Israelites, and he was like, "Yo, bro, I can't talk." You know, I'm not like a talker like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, Moses has gone through some things to know he can't do that. And God said, okay, roll with Aaron, you know. And Aaron literally was almost doing all the talking, and Moses was just doing all the stick execution.
Exactly.
So for me, what I pull out from that scripture is that you have to go through the process. So when you do get the help, you get the right help. Because we don't go through processes, then you get help and you get a guy who's ripping you off because you never needed him. You get a guy who's making you pay. Then you have a Messiah mentality. You're helping everybody because you never knew what help you need. So Moses had to go through things to understand that, like, okay, you're asking me to do you got to know everything you're doing. You might think that you have a viral video, but like if it's a task that you believe God is driving you to do, you have to literally go through the pain to know that, like, these are the hands I need because I'm not strong here. You know. I mean, I was gonna rap it because, you know, but like, cause this is my lines. Right? So I said, the world's energies. This is on my intro.
Sure.
Might as well, you know.
Sure.
In fact, I changed my intro. So I found Jesus, so that's going to be my so now, but this was my intro. This was intro before I found Jesus. But it goes, but what's interesting, I wrote this before I even did the whole calculations of my business. So I wrote this.
When did you find Jesus? When you keep on saying you found Jesus, when?
Like,
you went and said, Jesus, I accept you as my Lord and Savior.
Yeah. Like, literally, for me to do it. He always been around.
I know you've always spoken.
Yeah, he's always, but for me to accept it that way, that's, you know. So I go, the world's energy is 2,000 years plus. No matter how old you are, you haven't done enough. We go from seed to tree, me and my people building. First year Slikour Life made a cool million. Sold a part to Jews, then made 6 million. Bought it back from Jews, then made 22 million. Might sell it again to make 100 million. Then buy it back again to make 500 million. I never know, I'm also learning as I go. But one thing for sure, black man, you're on your own. White man don't want to open doors. Black mans love your hustle, not your growth. You feel empowered whenever you sink my boat. That's the world we live in. Niggas out here cold when they should be asking for the code. What a shame. I want to change the game, but my people love the chains. It's crazy, but wait, let me explain. Those that stole the lion sleeps tonight still control how you eat tonight. There's playing for keeps, alright. So our lives are cursed like it's just bleeps for life. But it's not only bleak in life. My success is because of hands of my sisters and brothers who've been working for brands. Shout out for allocating brands to black businesses. We try stretch it to our man so we can all advance. Last year we paid over 200 kids, went back to the hood, got the whole team kits. And this is how we're going to get the whole hood lit. We haven't even started with the fintech but before I leave, I promise you will be respected. The culture, the business, we invested. Our people, their lives, we interested. It's Slikour Live, we broadcasting live as our content has suggested.
Prolific. Wow. You've just summarized everything you spoke about in this interview. Actually. Damn.
Like he wrapped it up.
Damn.
He just wrapped that whole thing up.
I don't think we're going to finish everything that we have to talk about. I also wanted us to talk about, here he is. He's gone viral. We've picked up his attention. And you are in the new age. I wanted to find out what you think of what he needs to prepare, how. And in fact, he has shown signs that he's prepared a couple of things.
Set up a meeting with me. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Same time.
Let me hear where your mind is.
You know, before we go on, he inspired me with that verse. I got a 16 too.
Let's go.
I got a 16. I got a 16.
You know,
I got a 16 too. Jesus Christ. Let me just get this one out of the way, all right?
Yeah.
Go ahead with your bad self.
Just get this one out of the way. Oh. So, especially on like these elements of politics and everything that he was rapping about. I just wrote like a 10-bar type of thing. I was in a car and I was thinking about this whole thing too.
Yeah.
It goes like this, right? It says, tell me your pain. I'll tell you my problems too. Tell me your aim. I'll help you prepare the shoot. The vision is lost. Look at the nation. Segregation is now better than unity. They divided the communities. Look at it. Societies give endless eulogies. I'm feeling the guilt. I'm feeling the pressure to build. You feeling this? Your compassion is not so compassionate. I see a picture. It's dark and arrogant. The youth is living in fear. The leaders ain't built for the weight of the spear. It's a cold recession because the ones at the top are simplicates. Always remember this. You know?
Yeah.
It's fine.
I felt
it too.
Oh, you go.
This is it.
Let's show you what it is, man. It was me in my time of repentance. There's a time to acknowledge you as a God and to recognize you as a father, and this time I really need one. There's a time of being a baby and a time to become a son. Between us two, there's still a lot to be done. By a lot to be done, it is me in reference, in preference, bringing repentance of Psalm 51. Before I come to your Father in heaven, I do an introspection, take responsibility of what I happened. I got my flaws, my Father, my faults, I acknowledge them. Before I bring up my problem, Father, you absolve them. At your seat of mercy, I know I don't deserve it, but you're rich in grace and I know that you will serve it. I'm not perfect to do your will, but I know I truly try. I could have died. Who am I? You gave me newness inside. You decide to look inside what is pure and living. You help me get the ultimate joy of being forgiven.
Amen.
Yeah, man.
That's the lesson learned here is that, like, and this is how you stay successful. Never forget what the main thing is.
Yeah, man.
We gonna rap.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna rap. So that's the main thing. We're not here because we are business people or because we are know how to.
The main thing, rap.
We're not viral people.
We are here today because of that.
Sometimes you forget. He's right. Sometimes you're like, now I'm a businessman.
Don't get caught in the juice. You know, like there's no one here.
Isn't that what he did though? Isn't that what he did? Isn't that what he did? Because now he's thinking of businessman.
Come on,
you know.
man.
Even when I look at him, like I'm like, Slick is business.
No, I'm not business. I'm a whole. I'm like, but like you see, I can't be business because I'm what God gives me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I really talked about like my father passing and us having a problem, and for me to turn it around, it's like I'm actually gonna go study an MBA, God willingly, a business MBA. Because I see that this thing, my father also had it, my grandfather also had it. It's like it's in our. So let me just break the cycle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, again, you know, I'm Moses going, but I can't do this. But God goes. Okay, let me just also go get the knowledge also. So you know, it's one of those things that the knowledge is there, but I can't keep on going. No, but there was a time and there's a reason. But if I can literally change this, because God is giving this thing to us by default.
Yes, sir.
So how can I say, okay, God, you keep bringing it by default, even with the mistakes that we make. Let me add what the world also has and not be complacent on that. So just give me the time, the power, the capacity to go do that. I mean, the beast that I'm going to be, like, the beast that, the beast I'm just going to be, I'm just so excited about, like, what God has planned for me. So that's really where I'm at right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wanna ask Grootman a question, right? Like, and this thing kind of messes with me all this time, right? Like, you have a skill, right? You have passion. You have the willingness to get the knowledge, the necessary knowledge, so that you can equate yourself into knowing that I'm gonna win there, right? Whatever challenge is there, I think I'm strong enough. Maybe I'm wise enough to be able to sustain myself in that situation. But I have this thing that is constantly happening. Whenever there's a big thing that I have to now get into, right? And my track record in my life, I most of the time succeed at these things. It's not a lot of things that I actually would look at and be like, you know what, I've had to try 10 times. I think God has offered me that favor that, you know what, maybe it's because you work very hard in the background. That's why you don't have to really try a lot of times when you're in the field, right? What I want to ask him is this. How do you now deal with the uncertainty of, okay, maybe this one is not going to work. Maybe this one is going to work. But you're confident. you know. But sometimes you know that there's a part of life that you can't control.
Well, but I've got an answer for you.
You know, because some people, I look at other people and the way they live their life, I'm like, this guy's walking like 100% confident. You know, he's like, yo, man, I got this. And I'm like, but what if that natural adversity, misfortune things start happening and you lose it? How do you now stay confident still?
My answer is simple. Whose will is it? Yours or God's?
I think it's God's.
Okay, so whenever it's not happening, then it's your will. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
That should get, you know, sometimes I want things and in my head I go, but is it me?
Yeah.
Or is it God trying to work through? It's like submitting. You know, you gotta, and without me knowing, I've been submitting all my life.
Yeah.
You know, so the things that got me angry that never worked. In the long run, when I looked at it, I said, why was I gonna even do that? You understand?
Yeah.
So the question is, all the time that you are thinking, oh, when this was good, are you using your wisdom or God's wisdom? That thing that you really want, that like, so you might find guys who are super confident because they believe that God is gonna make it happen. But when they crash and they go, okay, next one again. You might find that like they've made peace that, okay, it wasn't God's will. So my thing is that if you keep thinking it's you will be frustrated. If you keep thinking it's you will fail. You know, you will own the failure. You know,
exactly.
But if you think it's God's will, you'll say, "Oh, okay, it's a misdirection. I was lost." And it's hard to think like that all the time. But that is the most powerful thing that God gives us. He goes, "I'm going clever back."
Yeah, I'm going clever back.
Can I say something there as we close?
Yeah.
Bogart's slogan is "Enough said." And when we are done, it's going to be an enough said moment. You guys have said so many profound things.
Yeah.
On top of that, I agree with what Sia is saying, that when you look at the word faith, faith is demanding that God's will needs to be discerned. And that discernment comes with faith. It is the craziest explanation. You know, like when you look at the word fear, false evidence appearing real. Ne? Faith has the same lines. Faith is the substance of hope.
Yeah.
And hope is evidence, you having evidence of what has not happened yet. And that is what is called faith. And all that, it needs to be discerned. You discern and you pursue God's will. You don't just sit and say, I'm doing this, it's God's will. You pursue it. So you close yourself in a closet. Life is a battle of altars.
Yeah.
Life is a battle of altars. You never, because in those rooms, the other people have done altar eruption. And you get there, you are naive. Sometimes you are swallowed.
Yeah.
And sometimes why I say you need to discern God's will is because it may not be your time, like Rama. Rama 51 times, Baba. Get 10 down the 13th time, 10 down the 27th time, 10 down the 44th time. How many people do you think were like, I didn't do the spine? Then on the 51st, then it's like, boom. They've learned 51 ways of how to make bad. And it's the most expensive one in South Africa. South African brand. So for you to be weighed is those kind of things.
Yeah.
God's will, that needs to be discerned, pursued, but it comes with work.
Exactly.
Work. As you discern it, as you pursue it, God strengthens. And you will know this is your time. Like he just said, the beast is about to be. He knows. Yes. He knows the time. The best thing for us to do is to understand times and seasons. That's the best thing.
Yes.
Gents, if I can just throw something in there, you know. Our lives is a complete finished assignment. We are living a complete life. It doesn't catch God by surprise. We are the ones who get surprised. It doesn't. So you are living a complete plan. So when you operate in His wisdom and His guidance, you're actually trusting the mastermind of your plan. That's what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that, you find yourself in a position where you want to trust a mastermind who does not know what your life is about. When you raise your child, you're discovering your child. But God is not trying to discover you.
Powerful.
In Ephesians, he says, I knew you and found you before the foundations of the earth, and I had ordained you. In Jeremiah, he says, I called you, do not say I am a child, because I've called you a prophet before your time. So your gifts, your talents, all this, to you it's a shock. To him it's a fulfillment of what he has completed with you.
Man.
That's
Enough said.
Bless.
That's it. Enough said.
Enough said.
Thanks to Bogart. Thanks to you guys being here. Thanks to Ron. Today has been quiet. I think he's been taking notes. But wow. I think 3 things we're going to take from here is that if you do not have roots with the source of life, like Musa just said now, that you need to know your life is complete, and you do not know the will of God, and you do not work yourself from within outward, then even if you prepare in the field, you're too late.
You're too late.
And you guys are a true representation of that. May you go out. I know that you guys are going to be in cahoots as time goes on.
Yeah.
When we meet up again sometime, we want to have testimonies of how this meeting place had produced something wonderful.
Yeah.
Slikour, we are rare, Pacho. Still nice with it.
I was surprised.
Still nice with it.
Still nice with it. Still nice with
it. As well as it's something. This is over that coin.
Nigga, just follow me on my Instagram, nigga. Go to my personal, go to my personal Instagram. I'll be rapping. I'll be rapping. I'm like, there's another thing. That's why I'm just saying, God is just saying, and then, manje uyahlala usifake studio. Keep a listen to ufumela ama likes. Uwarish nama likes. Posta listen to zakho man. So I got to like literally like
raps.
It's the discovery though of the tools that he's given only you for you to go through life, which you tone down because now you want to be this, you want to be, but he's saying you are all these things. Create, the preparation is creating space for all these things, you know, and then you go out and you live a full life being all those things, you know.
That's amazing.
Enough, man. We'll never finish this. There's so much to talk about.
So much.
Once again, thank you so much for gracing me. And I'm believing that a beautiful relationship, as time goes, growth and discovery will be. One other thing about Slikour is a guy who knows unity. He knows it, understands it, because it's the era we come from. Yeah. So, great things are going to come.
No, definitely.
Any last words?
I definitely agree. With me, I'm just humbled by the opportunity, you know, because, you know, working for something for about 15 years, and now finally in that 1 year where everything just comes together exactly how you envisioned. It's a crazy moment for me. You know, usually I know how I feel when I sleep about these moments. Like not in the moment. You know. But I just appreciate standing next to Slikour right now. Mr. Selwyn. This is a big opportunity for me. Just to be here and listen at this, you know. When I'm this close to listen to wisdom. These are the questions I've always wanted to ask, and he's answering one by one. He's just breaking them down.
Sure.
And definitely, I also appreciate the opportunity that you are opening up.
Sure.
My brand, I'm humbled.